Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Perspective with Kate. Before I begin, I just want to let you guys know my intentions behind these podcasts. I'm here to educate you guys. I'm here to give you guys a new perspective. I'm here to give you guys a chance to hear different opinions, different sides of the stories, and help you form your own opinion. I'm never here to shove my opinion down your throat, although I will let you know how I feel about certain things, but ultimately I want you guys to come to that conclusion yourselves. Today we're going to be talking about probably one of the most tragic cases, in my opinion. Ever since I learned about this case, it has truly haunted me. It's just such a tragic and sad case, and this is the case of Kalief Browder. I will warn you guys that there are some very heavy topics in this case. There's a lot of things that are kind of hard to digest and realize that this happens in our system every day. I will be posting clips on my YouTube video and Instagram. Viewer discretion advised, because it is some heavy stuff, guys. So just want to warn you guys before we get started. Kalief Browder was 16 years old when he was walking home from the Bronx from a party when he was stopped by police and arrested for allegedly stealing a backpack. His family could not make bail, so they hauled him off to one of the most notorious jails in the country, Rikers Island. He spent over 1,000 days on Rikers Island without a trial, and more than 700 of those days were in solitary confinement. He had over 30 court dates before his case was actually dismissed, 3 years later. At 16, Kalief was your average teenager. He liked to go to the park, he liked to ride his bike, he liked to play sports with his neighborhood best friends and go to parties. He was from the Bronx, and as most of you know, the Bronx is a predominantly black neighborhood, and it's known as the ghetto with gang violence and poor school systems. The police were known in this area to excessively patrol and pick up black people for minor incidents, or a procedure known as stop and frisk, which was used aggressively and gave cops permission to stop and frisk any black person they chose to, whether that person was guilty for something or not. Kalief was adopted by Rikers Browder. Kalief was born into a foster system. His mother was addicted to crack cocaine, and when you birth a child and that child is tested and has cocaine in their system, they're automatically taken from their mother, and that's what happened to Kalief. He grew up in a loving home with Rikers. He had 4 brothers and 1 sister. His father left when he was young, and his siblings say that after his father left, Kalief was never the same. He ended up seeking and finding comfort in friends on the street who had been through what he had been through. At 16, Kalief was caught joyriding in a stolen bakery truck, and he says that he did this out of peer pressure from his friends. He had something to prove to them. He was arrested and convicted of a felony and given 5 years probation. New York is the only state that charges a child of the age 16 for a felony, and now he was tagged as a problem. On the early morning of May 15, 2010, around 2:30 a.m., Kalief was walking home from a party with his friend, and a police stopped him and questioned him about a robbery. They were questioning him about a stolen book sack that had a camera, $700, a credit card, and an iPod in it. The victim was actually sitting in another cop car, and they pointed their spotlight on Kalief, and the victim said that, yes, this is the right person. They search Kalief and they find nothing on Kalief, not the book sack, not the money, not the iPod, nothing. The victim says, oh, well, he tried to rob me 2 weeks ago. And he starts contradicting himself when the robbery happened, or if it even happened at all. There's a lot of errors in the police reports. He was arrested on May 15, 2010, but there was another statement in the report that says the robbery took place on May 2nd, and in another report it says it took place on May 8th. So they arrest Kalief and they bring him to jail. And they charge him with second-degree robbery. Kalief's first court hearing sets bail at $3,000. Now, this may not seem like a lot to you, but often in neighborhoods like Kalief grew up in the Bronx, it doesn't matter if the bail is $300 or $1 million. A lot of people, and including his family, that financial ability was non-existent. 80% of the people in this area cannot post bail right out of arraignment. They couldn't help him post bail, and this happens all of the time. When you don't have it, you don't have it. His family also didn't think that it would take 3 years for him to get a trial. His family calls his father, his estranged father, to pay Kalief's bail, and his family says that his father actually could have paid it, but he didn't. And his family ends up asking their neighbor, and their neighbor lends them the $900 to bail Kalief out. His mom then goes to the bondsman, and the guy starts doing the paperwork and then tells her that Kalief's bail is denied because he had violated his prior probation. So basically, the Department of Probation put a hold on him until his case was resolved, and then he went to trial. Kalief was then imprisoned on Rikers Island. Now, I want to talk to you guys about Rikers Island. I know most people have heard of this jail. It's a notorious jail, but I don't think a lot of people actually know the statistics or how brutal this jail actually is. So Rikers Island is located on the East River between Queens and the Bronx. It's one of the largest correctional institutions in the world. Majority of those being held at Rikers Island are awaiting trial. The rest are serving a short sentence for low-level offenses. According to the recent release report, the island detains an average of 9,300 people per day. And the sad thing is that there are more people who spend time on Rikers awaiting trial than those who are actually being convicted. The borough that Rikers is in has over hundreds of cases a day waiting to go to trial. This borough has one of the longest waiting periods in the US. The use of force by correction officers against prisoners jumped nearly 30% from 5,175 incidents in 2018 to 6,670 by the end of July 2019. Officers also use force more often against adolescent inmates, 571 times, up from 478 in 2018. In Rikers, the gangs are notorious and rampant. They are running the jails. You have to fight to eat at the table. You have to fight to use a phone. You have to fight to use a shower. And the officers let inmates fight without intervening. And this was called the program, and it has been known to exist for well over a decade in Rikers, and it's also unique to adolescents. The inmates use it as a test for other inmates and a system of control amongst themselves. People are able to smoke drugs, razors, knives, beer, and all kinds of things through these correctional over. They will keep jumping you until you join the program, or they jump you so badly that you'll get shipped to a different housing. And then you basically go through the whole process all over again in a new cell house, getting jumped if you don't join the program. And sadly, Kalief moved to several different houses from being beaten so severely. And so he had endured the initiation process over and over and over again because he refused to join the program. If you weren't going to join the program and join the gang, you had to prove that you could hold your own and defend yourself. So Kalief decided to start fighting to gain a reputation so that they would quit messing with him. But he just ended up getting jumped all while the guards are just sitting there letting it happen. Also, one time Kalief was on one of the lower level floors, and they were supposed to be let out at 4 o'clock to eat. And they didn't end up letting them out until 6 o'clock, and they were only let out for 10 minutes before they told them to go back into their cells. Well, Kalief was mad because he hadn't even eaten, and they only let him out for 10 minutes. So he started questioning the COs, and he refused to go back in until he ate. So from then on out, he was on the gang's bad side and the CO's bad side. It didn't take long before Kalief was put into solitary confinement. And the New York City Department of Corrections reported that in the fiscal year of 2012, more than 14.4% of adolescents detained at Rikers Island between the ages of 16 and 18 were held in at least one period of solitary confinement while detained. The average length of time young people spent in solitary confinement at Rikers Island was 43 days. More than 48% of adolescents at this institution have diagnosed mental health problems. The United Nations defines any period longer than 15 days straight in solitary confinement as torture. Kalief was 17 at his first stint and was over 300 days straight. Let's talk a little bit about solitary confinement. So, solitary confinement consists of being locked in your cell for 23 hours a day. You get 1 hour outside, and that 1 hour you're in shackles and you're still in an outside cage. Rooms are slightly bigger than your average elevator. You receive 2 baths per week. You get very few activities or programs. You get limited visitors, and then only through a thick glass barrier with no physical contact. Research has shown that this type of isolation to humans can cause visual and auditory hallucinations, hypersensitivity to noise and touch, insomnia and paranoia, uncontrollable feelings of rage and fear, distortions of time and perception, increased risk of suicide, and post-traumatic stress disorder. And let me remind you, this is only up to 15 days that these symptoms can start kicking in. Research has shown that juveniles are less equipped to handle the stresses associated with solitary confinement than adults, putting them at a greater risk of severe psychological damages. During adolescence and into a person's mid-20s, the part of the brain responsible for cognitive processing is still developing. Isolation can damage these crucial development processes. Studies over the year on monkeys have shown how damaging social isolation is. And we have laws that state that animals that we use for testing have to be housed together for socializing. So how ironic is that we have laws that make and force us to put the animals that we test in social situations, but we as humans take these people out of social situations and isolate them, and it's not against the law. Not to mention, once these people start losing their minds, they start pumping them with drugs, mainly for like schizophrenia and hallucinations. And when these people are released, they are no longer taking those drugs. And it has severe side effects on their mental states. A lot of them do not have mental health issues before going in, but several mental issues coming out. Some inmates describe it as dying with their eyes open. And also, a lot of these correctional officers have no training in how to handle these patients or mentally ill people. A lot of the times, the correctional officers don't understand that some of these inmates' behaviors are from mental stress of the solitary confinement and isolation. Some of their outbursts and self-harm come from that isolation, and the COs just think that they're being defiant. So they get more time on their social isolation time. And sadly, Kalief was no different. He ended up spending 2 out of his 3 years in solitary confinement. Kalief asked to see a psychiatrist multiple times because he was feeling suicidal, and they ignored him. He was crumbling, guys. His mental state was deteriorating rapidly. On March 11th, 2012, he used his bed sheets to hang himself, and he was trying to attempt to take his life.
Officers, they opened my cell, and I jumped.
He's literally in a noose, hanging off the ground. And you can see them looking into a cell, standing there, doing
nothing. They opened my cell and they were just standing there watching. The captain, he said, before I cut you down, you're gonna feel some pain first.
Came in and started beating him down.
They grabbed me, they cut me down, they threw me on the bed, gave me a lot of punches, they stomped me on the bed.
He ran out of the cell to get in the hallway because he knew there were cameras there.
They came towards me and they were just swinging on me. I was scared.
And I've also provided clips from, they released the clips from Kalief's several beatings from the inmates. They have proof that the guards just sat there and let it happen. There's a clip of a guard purposely beating him. And I mean, this child, what he endured on Rikers Island, it's unimaginable. And it's really hard for people to digest that without seeing it for themselves. And so I think that it's important, like I said, for you guys to see that. But his family was never contacted about his suicide attempt, and it was also never reported. A lot of the time, the COs think that this is just outburst behavior and they don't take it seriously. And so he never got treatment. And he actually attempted suicide 3 more times. All 3 of these times were times where he went to court thinking that he would finally get his trial and be sent home, and it didn't happen. Kalief's court dates kept getting pushed back further and further. His first court hearing was December 10th, 2010, and then it was pushed back to the next week. And then that one was pushed back to January 28th, 2011. And then that one was pushed back to the next week. And then that one was pushed back to March 11th. And that one was pushed back. I mean, it was just crazy. And it was delay after delay after delay. And they didn't have a courtroom available, or they weren't ready for trial. And Kalief was not given a fair and speedy trial. He had over 30 court dates. The only way to get off Rikers Island is pretty much to plead guilty or to go to trial. And anyone who's been in Rikers will tell you that they will plead guilty to any crime that they did not commit just to be released. 90% of cases were resolved by plea. These people are legally innocent and are awaiting trial, and they're in some of the harshest and cruelest conditions. And they'll plead guilty just to get out of that situation. I mean, imagine being innocent and just waiting for your trial and sitting in Rikers Island going through what Kalief has gone through. The crime is that they're poor and they can't afford bail. Over 50% of people on Rikers Island are sitting there because they cannot post bail of $1,000 or less. These innocent people are sitting here because they don't have the money to bail out. These conditions will make any person want to crumble and do whatever it takes to get out. But Kalief, on the other hand, refused to plead guilty for something that he did not do. Even through all of his pain and being held in solitary confinement, he was not going to plead guilty.
The judge told me if I plead guilty, I would release from jail that same day. But I didn't do it. You're not gonna make me say I did something just so I could go home. If I gotta stay here 5 more months just to prove that I'm innocent, then so be it. It's just heartbreaking, and it's like I felt like they was just playing with my life.
His lawyer even explained to him that your trial is going to keep getting pushed back because they just want you to plead guilty, and Kalief would not. Kalief's public defender did not do any justice to this case. Public defenders are not judged based off of acquittal rates. They're judged based off of how many cases they can get off of their desk. And unfortunately, often, public defenders have so many cases on their hands that they do not have time to fully dedicate themselves to their individual cases. On June 23rd, 2011, there was a plea offer made by the DA, and it was 3.5 years, but Kalief refused it, and he maintained his innocence to take his case to trial. And it took a long time for this trial to happen because they couldn't find the witness. And the witness had apparently disappeared to Mexico, which was the victim. And by February 2012, they still could not find this witness, so they couldn't go to trial. And by this time, Kalief had been in solitary confinement for over 420 days. So they finally end up speaking to the victim's brother. They hunt him down, they find him, because his brother was the one who called the cops earlier that May after his brother told him that he had been robbed previously, before they found Kalief that night. The police arrive and they take the 2 men around a few blocks trying to identify who stole the backpack. And after not finding him, or the perp, or whoever stole the book sack, the brother asked the cops to take a look at the spot where the incident took place. The spot where the robbery took place had a camera. The brother pointed it out and the cop looked at it and said, okay, and just walked away. The brother states that the police never looked at the video footage. And he also never did a report on the incident, and there are no 911 calls to verify that the brother called the police. So fast forward on the early morning of May 15th, the victim claims that 2 black boys were waiting for him to jump and rob him again. And he called his brother scared, saying that the guys who had robbed him earlier in May had been there waiting for him. His brother goes downstairs to meet him to call the police. His brother asks him, "Why do you think that these are the ones?" And the victim responds, "Because he's wearing the same clothing." The brother goes to the precinct and tells them again, "Hey, there was a camera where this took place. Can we go check those cameras out?" And he even says that They were not interested and refused to check the footage again. And you can tell that the brother just really wanted them to check the camera to see who had really done this to his brother. The officer on the scene of the night, who was responsible for the case, had a past case similar to this one where she refused to check video footage from a scene. The guy got sent to Rikers and was later exonerated after they finally checked the film to prove his innocence. And this was the case with Kalief as well, but they never checked the footage. Eventually, the victim goes back to Mexico because he claims that he was so afraid after the robbery that he could not live his life afterwards. And apparently, this is why it took so long for the case to go to trial. They couldn't find him in Mexico. But they also drugged this case along knowing that the witness could not be found, and they never told Kalief and his lawyers. They kept telling Kalief that they weren't ready for trial, but in reality, they were trying to hold off to find their witness. March 2013, they brought in Judge Patricia Domingo to clear up the congestion in the Bronx. She was known as a hard, intimidating bully of a judge. She was notorious for forcing people into plea deals. The DA offers to drop Kalief's felony charges to 2 misdemeanors, and he would serve 4 months on Rikers Island. And Kalief denied this plea. They tell Kalief that they found the victim and that they were going to fly the victim from Mexico to go to the trial. But April comes and they still aren't ready and they haven't gotten the witness. And they try to scare Kalief and they say, well, we have been in contact with him and you're facing up to 15 years if you go to trial and are found guilty. And Kalief basically says, bring it. Judge Domingo adjourned the case until April 19, 2013. And the DA were still saying that they had the witness on the way. And eventually they have to admit that they don't really have a case and that the witness is not coming. And they'd have to dismiss the case anyway. So after 1,126 days after Kalief was arrested, the Bronx DA formally withdrew all charges. On May 29, 2013 at 2:30 a.m., Kalief was released. But honestly, by then, the damage had already been done to Kalief. When he got out, he and his family went to 11 different attorneys to try to tell Kalief's story and get justice for him, and they all said he didn't have a case. Until Paul Prestia, who is a civil rights attorney, jumped on Kalief's case and believed that this was a total shit show. Kalief and his family never really wanted money, they just wanted justice, and Kalief wanted to make sure that this never happened to another child. I mean, guys, he was 16 when he was arrested. In November 2013, Kalief filed a lawsuit against the NYPD and the Bronx DA and the Department of the Correction. After being pushed back over and over, they finally scheduled Kalief for a deposition. And a deposition is where you are under oath and you're given the chance to give your full statement. But they also ask you everything and anything. And these depositions are very, very nerve-wracking. And it's a stressful process. I mean, you have to go into detail about every single thing that happened to you. And Kalief had to explain all of the pain he had went through, and his experience is absolutely brutal. Listen to this small clip. He would punch holes in his walls and doors, and he even started a fight and got stabbed across his face. This child lost his childhood. Our system drove him to psychosis, and then we just sent him on his way back to the world without any help on how to adjust and transition back into the world. And in the end, he could no longer fight off these demons. He attempted suicide and was taken to the hospital and underwent a psych evaluation. He was prescribed, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but it looks like risperidone, which treats schizophrenia and bipolar. And he was actually on this while in solitary confinement. And this is not a drug that people can just suddenly stop taking without severe side effects. So they put him back on it, and he said that he hated the way it made him feel, but he made an effort and decided that he wasn't going to give up that easily. Kalief ended up getting his GED and then attended the Bronx Community College. He wanted to make something of himself and prove that after what he had been through that you can come out of that darkness. He wanted to feel as normal could be for him. By spring 2015, he had a 3.56 GPA, and he had a great mentor and counselor while he was there They were even helping him plan a hiking trip to see different parts of the country with a group of people who would take former incarcerated guys on hiking adventures to help heal from traumas. He was going to therapy. He had Rosie O'Donnell on his side, checking on him often. He had Jay-Z reaching out. I mean, his story blew up in 2014, and he really made such an important impact on the world, and he started a revolution in our justice system. But Kalief had a hard time adjusting to that, I guess, fame or attention. He didn't want all the attention. He didn't want, all he wanted was his story to get out and to help reform the laws and change the system. And it took a toll on him. And his paranoia was also out of control. He thought that his teachers were part of the FBI. He thought that people were after him 24/7. He would talk to himself and fake people.
I lost my happiness. I don't really tell too much people about this, but it's like sometimes I talk to myself, and it's like it's actually embarrassing. Sometimes on the train or the bus, I have a whole conversation with myself for 5 to 10 minutes, and then it's like you're really crazy. Like you really talk to yourself. But being in solitary confinement that long without talking to anybody, I feel like that maybe had something to do with it, because that's where those habits started to pick up. Deep down, I'm a mess, because it's like I'm 21, and in the inside, I feel like I'm 40.
The deposition was also tough on him. They were telling him that he was lying about the things that happened to him, and he couldn't overcome this. He had gotten arrested for fighting, and he had to go back to court. And I'm sure in his head, there was no way that he could go back and endure what he had already endured for 3 years. Kalief did not want to go back to jail. And on June 6, 2015, Kalief hung himself from his bedroom window. His mother heard a noise and she ran upstairs and found him, but it was too late. And the world was completely stunned by this. I mean, I get emotional thinking about it. I mean, he had so much going for him. The world had so much hope for him, and so much hope for justice. And I get so upset about it because our system failed this child. He was a child, and what he went through is there's no words to put to his situation. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's unimaginable. It's heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching. It punches you in the gut. And the fact that we let this happen, and the fact that he's not the only one. This happens all of the time. And things have to change. I mean, this cannot keep happening. Fortunately, Obama ended up banning solitary confinement for juveniles, and the city started a bail reform. They started a speedy trial reform. They tried to raise the criminal age. And they also announced in 2017 that they will begin closing down Rikers Island, guys. This is like the most amazing news. Now, it'll take a very long time, and it'll take a lot to push this through because they are wanting to break it up into 5 different jails in different boroughs. So it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of time. But the fact that we got, an answer and we're going to go ahead and go forward with this is amazing. And a lot of people were so moved by Kalief's story, and his story started shifting our justice system, and that's all he really ever wanted. And I know for a fact that Kalief would be smiling down on us and would be so satisfied in the way that things are turning out, and hopefully that the movement and direction that this is going in continues. Kalief's family and attorney filed a wrongful death suit because they believed it was the system who killed Kalief, and I wholeheartedly agree without an ounce of doubt that our system killed this young man, this child. And his mother had taken the torch to continue to talk at different conferences and to go out to different media outlets and to keep that story alive and to Kalief's name in the public, to let people know that what had happened to her son was not okay. But unfortunately, she passed away fighting a good fight in 2016. And on January 25th, 2019, New York City reached a $3.3 million settlement for Kalief's family. And the civil rights and wrongful death action is before a judge in the Supreme State Court in the Bronx. And the city of New York has still never owned up to their wrongdoing in this case. And they've never apologized or anything like that. I will continue to follow this story. I have followed this story since 2016. And this Kalief story is one that has touched me like none before, and I encourage you guys. I've got so many links about, you know, solitary confinement, social reform, bail reform in my links to go sign petitions and things like that. And I urge you and I encourage you to go do those things, guys. We have got to make changes in our justice system, and it starts with us. His family to this day is still out there keeping Kalief's name alive. They're protesting, they're still fighting the good fight, and I hope you guys continue to do so too. And I thank you for listening to this podcast, and I will see you guys next time.